All right, and welcome to episode 9 of Just Joking Podcast. I am one half of the podcast king, and that's my main man Joe over there. Hey man, we're almost at episode 10, brother.
Yes, sir. It's getting there, man.
Hey man, I'm glad to have you on today. If you are checking us out on YouTube, we are live. We also attempt to try to put this out on audio forms on all major podcasting platforms. Just look up Just Joe/King podcast on any podcasting platform. Now, Joe, before we get started, we are a couple of days late from our usual
We are.
production.
We are.
And there was a couple of reasons for that, but one of the things that I'd like to highlight before we get started is that me and you both lost a dear friend, a guy who served his country very honorably, is a father of four, I want to say, um,
Five.
father of five, and he recently lost his battle to from COVID related complications. He had caught it earlier in the year. We talked about it on this podcast, and his wife had reached out to people that knew him and informed us that her husband had passed away. So I would like to take a moment of silence to honor a friend of both of ours, a guy who I'd be hard pressed to say that you can't find anybody who can say a bad thing about this dude. But I would like to take a couple of seconds to have a moment of silence for our friend David LaVale. All right, brother, you will be surely missed. Now, let's kick this episode off.
Yeah.
You
With the
watch the
top,
news.
it's a topic that I think Dave would appreciate too.
Oh man, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the news, social media, we have technology. Stuff that happens like in our face now, right? And I'll see a lot of things that happen all the time, and I just have to shake my head because I'm like, where was the critical thinking when XYZ happened? So this episode is going to be what are our thoughts on the lack of critical thinking that's happening in our society, and can we fix that?
Yeah.
So first of all, before we kind of go into that, what is your definition of critical thinking?
Oh man. I mean, it's simple. It's gaining all the facts and information, not just taking stuff at face value. Not just. I mean, because I'll end up getting into the discussion right now if we talk about the definition of critical thinking, but um, getting all the information, not letting other people spoon feed you your immediate response. Like, take time to think, learn all sides of the argument or the discussion or the topic. Yeah, like dissect, think.
That's good. That's good. So I'm just going to read two sentences here. Critical thinking is the analysis of facts to form a judgment. Or you could say it as the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. All right. So that's taking emotion out of it. That's
Mhm.
taking, or trying to take certain biases out of it. And it is hitting you with fact, right? It's becoming exceedingly obvious to me that there are some people that you can tell them 2 plus 2 is 4, and they're just not going to believe you because of some perceived thing or bias that they might have against you for saying it to them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, man, like what started this, and why does it seem to be going trending this way
I
instead of
think
either staying the course or improving.
Yeah, so see, it's complicated first off, and it's complex. I think that this is something that's been going on for a very long time. I think the problem with our current time and generation and what's happening is that there is an information war, and it makes this such a more prevalent or in your face thing, um, because everybody's got this massive access to information all the time, and it's being given to you and force fed to you, and it's just spread out all over the place in real time, and uh, it's bombarding people. And I think that it's so difficult to sift through everything to find what's true, what's right, or what even appeals to you. Because I mean, a lot of information, people have already formed opinions on a lot of these topics that they're coming across. They don't they're not looking for something to make them go against it. They're
Mhm.
looking for more stuff that makes them feel justified in their opinion and their thought. So there's no thinking required. It's just, yep, exactly. I That's exactly what I thought. I thought that exact same thing. That title right there and that picture sums up everything I already felt. Moving on. Let me just share this with 400 of my friends, and who has 400 friends these days? But I mean, it's access to information, it's information distribution, and it's personal and professional bias. There's so many things that really feed into this, and we have so many platforms that reach billions of people. You know, so I mean, it's it's crazy, man. But I don't think this is anything new. I think
Mm.
I think we've had this same problem for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And before it became social media and all that stuff, I guarantee you, the first person they said was a critic was a philosopher. You know, they probably had those same feelings about the philosophers who questioned logic, and
Mm.
not because logic is flawed, but that a flawed creature who uses something called logic makes the logic inherently flawed.
Hold on, hold on. I might have to probably play that one back to get that.
Yeah. So because we are incomplete, imperfect creatures, we cannot come up with something that's perfect.
Ah.
There's no way that even our systems that, I mean, except for science, they say that science is, because it can be proven, it can be disproven, it can be recreated, that it's fact, it's real, it's true. And there are people who argue that. And from a philosophical standpoint, I can kind of understand that, but that doesn't mean I disagree with science. And see, and that's where you've always had these people, but not everybody comes from that intellectual or philosophical standpoint. They're just coming from, does it suit my need? Does it, does it fill my information stomach and make me happy with what I read? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's been going on for a long time. I think it's just more prevalent now and much more in your face because social media, you know?
Now, so if you take a look at some of the things that Facebook does, right? So
Hmm.
Facebook, I lean on either side of this actually. So Facebook, if there's something that is proven to be false, they will strip your ability to spread that information if their fact checkers deem that it's false.
Yeah.
So, and I bring that up to say that I like that we have such access to information. My daughter and I was actually out at the bookstore today, man, Barnes and Nobles.
Hmm.
And you have all of these, fiction, nonfiction, but you have access to this information. Almost everybody has a smartphone. You know, you can have access to information right there in the palm of your hands.
Hmm.
Yet it almost seems that we're getting dumber.
And
you know,
I don't.
and maybe it's me just getting older, man.
Yeah.
Because I had a friend tell me most people that know me know that I like to see the good in people. But I made a statement the other day that my homeboy said I knew you was gonna eventually come to the dark side because I'm starting to actually get to where I don't like people now because they're just there's a whole lack of critical thinking. People are rude to just be rude. And I'm wondering just the why in all of that.
So the question you got to ask yourself, is this really everyone? Or is it just what you're seeing on social media? So you're not seeing 5 billion people. You're seeing a couple of really loud individuals with a lot of followers. That doesn't mean all the followers feel the same way or think the same way. It's a strong possibility because they like the person, they follow them, they share the same likes, wants, and desires, whatever. But, and I have this conversation with my wife all the time. It's like, just because you see that there were 7 people who, or just because you see there was 2 people who glued their hair on and the glue fucked up and they had to surgically get it removed, doesn't mean lots of people are doing this. It
Mm,
doesn't mean, and then they say it's a trend. It's not a trend. You haven't had 500,000 people do this. You had like 5, and yeah, it's stupid, and it makes me think that the rest of society is stupid. But not all of society is doing that, and there's a lot of people in society, hundreds of thousands, I would assume, if not more, millions, who looked at that and also said, "This is stupid." You know what I mean? I can guarantee you the resounding population at large is like, wow, there are some dumb people out there, and they're all feeling the same way about the same people, but the same those small groups of loud, popular people have everybody else thinking that it's everywhere all the time, and that's just not the case. I had a friend of mine through social media was like, oh, this Antifa, the Antifa people are gonna, they're rioting here and they're rioting there, and it's gonna be a civil war. And I'm like, but is it really? Like, it's happening in like 2 cities, like 2. But social media is bombarding you with it. Just eat this, eat this, eat this. It's coming for you. They're coming for your babies. You know what I mean? Like hide your kids. They just they want you to click. They want you to read, and it's all because of ad revenue and all the pictures and shit that are on these articles. You can't, if it's even the reputable news sites these days have 17 ads on their page that you have to scroll through to get the meat and potatoes of the article.
mm-hmm.
It used to be that we do it's called the bluff, the bottom line up front. You
Bluff line.
front load your article with the important information, so people, if they tune out towards the middle or end, they've gotten the important bits. And even reputable news sites aren't writing like that anymore. Now they're writing so you have to read 5 paragraphs down, and you got to scroll through all this ad space so they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what this is all about. It's literally information wars. It's even reputable. What's up?
Oh, finish your
I
thought.
see.
But I just had a light bulb, man. Finish your
Yeah.
thought.
Well, I mean, like I said when we started this, it's information wars. It's making money off of you, keeping you worked up and heated and angry, and click 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 click. They want them angry clicks. You know what I mean? So they get that ad revenue, and that's really what it's all about.
Dude,
So what was the light bulb?
you just said something, man, and it kind of made me go off. So we would have bluff lines for the key decision makers in the
Mm-hmm.
military, like
Mm-hmm.
colonels and above, or you say majors and above, it depending on your branch.
Yeah, it
Didn't have
depends.
time to like read 5 or 6 paragraphs to
Yeah,
make a decision. So they would say, give me the bluff line up front, all
yeah,
right, so that I can make a decision to, make things happen. And then, you would want to put the meat and potatoes or how the stew is made kind of down there at the bottom for if they need to go back
yeah,
to digest additional stuff somewhere
yeah,
later on.
yeah.
So a lot of key decision makers, CEOs, people that have to make a decision, they want that bluff line up front. Even in your own household, give me the bluff line up front so I'll be able to know what to do and how to go places.
Mm-hmm.
But yet when it comes to kind of what, and I'm doing also the media or social media or whatnot, they're not doing that and giving that information for the mass consumers or whatever to hear, because they want those clicks, they want sensationalism, they want emotions to kind of have decisions be made. And
Yep.
I kind of see a bit of a problem right there, because the person that thinks like I do, I don't care about all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will allow a headline to make me go, "Huh, that's interesting. Let me see more." But I'm on the side of, if I have to go through and it's one line here, click another line here, click another line. Like, I don't have the time for this.
Right.
But if they're doing it, then people are allowing that kind of actions to continue, man. Huh?
If it didn't work, they wouldn't do it.
Yes, just like, and this is completely off topic, kind of. There were people that was talking about OnlyFans, right? And
Hmm.
OnlyFans was started as a way for content creators to connect with like the
With
people that follow them, right?
yeah, their followers, yeah,
With with their fans.
in a unique way, yeah.
But it has since morphed into, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and things like that,
Oh,
for
don't blame COVID-19 or the pandemic. It was already headed in that direction long before that.
it has morphed into a way that people can go into adult work and kind of funnel people over there for them to generate and make money. There are
Yeah,
people that are upset with that, but I'm
of
like,
course.
they're doing it because the market is allowing them
It's the natural
to do
evolution
it.
of sex work. It's the natural evolution of sex work. It's now they're able to get their content out to a wider audience. That's all it is. And honestly, I mean, I know there's people out there who don't like it, and that's fine. But somebody's going to do it. I mean, all these people are doing is participating in a viable, marketable skill.
Yeah,
No, you don't have to like it, but it's a real thing, and it's going to stay. It's not going to change anytime soon.
yeah, and I tell people that the reason why it is not going anywhere is because you have people that will be consumers of that. Just like how the media will sensationalize and kind of put things out in a certain way, is they're going to have people that are going to be consumers of that, and we can't stop it. I can't
I mean,
ask everybody in the world to be a critical thinker.
it's the same thing as Twitch or any of the other broadcasts or rebroadcasting sites. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. I mean, if they weren't doing it on OnlyFans, they do it on another site. Look at Twitch and the hot tub streamers.
Wait, that's
Same thing.
what?
That's a thing. That's a thing. People stream in hot tubs and bikinis and bathing suits, and people tune in and send them money. I mean, it's a thing. But I mean, come on. This is there's a reason why sex work is called the oldest profession, because there's always going to be a market for it, and that shit works. And again, you want to go to critical thinking. This is content that doesn't require a ton of critical thinking.
No.
It's it's appealing to your base nature, and you're just like, I see things I like to see. I'm going to keep tuning in, and I don't have to think hard. I don't suspect that their user base is getting into great philosophical debates. You know what I mean? I don't suspect somebody logs in, sees a hot tub streamer, and is like, I'm going to contemplate my existence right now. You know what I mean? So like, it's easy material. It's easy content, easy money, and an unlimited viewer base. And I mean, if those people weren't doing it, somebody else would do it. So you talk about critical thinking, it goes into everything that we do. And the person who's streaming that stuff did a lot of critical thinking, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, you absolutely. I totally agree with that. Bro, I just got an idea. I'm going to work my ass off in the gym for a year, try and
Mm,
get me a six pack, and I'm going to start up a stream called Philosophical Bubbles with King.
mm.
And sit myself in a hot tub with nothing but some underwear on or whatnot, and
Sip some
just
Chardonnay
and sip some Chardonnay, have
just
some music, and
and just
move
debate
light in the
life.
background, and just talk
Yeah,
about life
talk
with
about
whoever
life.
wants to come on and give donations just for me sharing my thoughts, because I got a six pack in a hot tub, and I'm showing my yeah.
20,
Oh,
20 bucks, somebody will tune in. I promise you.
mm. Hey, if anybody out there does that, please send us a message at just.joe.king, I think at gmail.com, or it could be
Hmm.
just.joe.king podcast. It'll be in the
It'll be
description
in the
of this
description.
episode.
Yeah.
Ah, I would love to. You just put me onto something new, my man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Wow.
it's it's niche. It's happening, man. There's like a whole category for it.
So I have to ask you this. Do
Sure.
you think that a critical thinker says the following statement: my thinking is just fine. If everyone thought like me, this would be a pretty good world. Is that something that a critical thinker would say?
No, I don't think so. Anybody who thinks like objectively knows that like minds tend to make for a boring existence. You need you need subjective. You need other people with different perspectives and different thoughts and different life experiences. Look at the military. The military could not succeed if everybody thought exactly the same way all the time, every day. It couldn't succeed. The reason why the military works is you have people from all walks of life, all life experiences, um, different wealth brackets, different walks of life, religions, colors, creeds, uh, people from other countries coming and serving in our army so that they can become citizens in our great nation and participate in the in the search for the American dream. You know what I mean? Like the military works because of those things. The military could not function if everybody followed. So like the rules and instructions are clear for the military, right? The
Mhm.
rule that like the laws that you can't break, those static, understood. But like the how to do things, that shit is meant to be interpreted in certain ways and applied in other ways. You know what I mean? Like how I train on my weapon isn't necessarily the greatest way. There might be a guy from Tennessee who's been shooting his whole life that knows a trick, that knows how to do this or knows windage better than I do, or can figure out the air and just knows how to shoot. And he's going to go off and be a sniper for the government. You know what I mean? Or he's going to go off and be an instructor and teach thousands of troops how to shoot better. That's what it's all about. Like that's what a critical thinker knows, that he needs other critical thinkers. He doesn't need people who just are yes men. You know what I mean? That shit goes downhill real fast in a group full of yes men.
So, do you think that the first person to integrate, like our service, for example, did they have the temerity to make that call and make it happen? Yes.
Yeah, I I think I honestly, at the birth of our militaries and all that stuff, I think that I can't really speak to that because I don't know. I don't know the philosophies of the different generals and officers of that time. You got to remember, at the birth of our military, a lot of officers were just people of wealth and standing. They would take like professors and like lawyers and people who knew shit, but like just because they had better educations, they were automatically officers. Doesn't mean they were better military strategists, or there were plenty of them who failed before they succeeded. Ultimately, they gained that knowledge and strength through failure, through success, and through the fight. You know what I mean? Like you go back to like the birth of the military, and we had a nation full of people who had never served in a military before. So you know how did they make it work? And again, it's because they came from all walks of life. They came from different opinions and minds. But I think you go back to like World War II, when we had a lot of these rock star generals, these generals who had learned from the officers of World War One, and they grew into these officers in World War II. If you if you listen, I mean, like Patton was a brilliant military mind, and I don't think he really towed the line. I
Hmm.
think that he I think that a lot of people were afraid of him throughout the military because he he was brilliant, and I don't think that they were ready for his kind of leadership and stuff like that. But ultimately, they were going to listen to him. They were going to do what he said. Um, but you flash forward to like Vietnam. You don't have that generation of officers and generals who learned from the World War II generation, like the World War II generation learned from the World War I generation, like Omar Bradley and those officers and stuff like that. So I don't know how the military succeeded in its early days. I think it succeeded because it had to. But I think back then we had lots of critical thinkers. We had people who were worried about the existence of our nation, like the chance to survive and exist. Uh, I think that inherently brings out the absolute cream of the crop. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure lots of the ones who didn't survive were incredibly brilliant people at that time, but the ones who did survive and the ones who did carry the torch forward, they had to have been. There's lots of things in the military that sound like stupid people existed. You've heard you've read Uniform Code of Military Justice. There's some rules out there that why does that exist? You know
Uh-huh.
why? Somebody did it. So obviously there's plenty of that going around still. And that's been going around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So
You can't have a site like Dumb Private or, Dumb Private Jokes if there wasn't a reason for, that to be born.
hmm
Um,
exactly.
so I'd asked you earlier about something that a critical thinker doesn't say. There is this other paragraph that I'd like to
Mhm.
read. It says, or it goes, a critical thinker would say, my thinking, as that of everyone else, can always be improved. Self deception and folly exist at every level of human life. It is foolish ever to take thinking for granted. And that's a bar right there.
Mm,
To think well, we must regularly analyze, assess, and reconstruct thinking, ever mindful as to how we can improve it.
mm.
I don't
That's
know who
deep.
said that, but
That's
that
deep.
shit is deep.
See, that sounds philosophical. That sounds like a philosophy. Like people think philosophers are full of shit sometimes, but to wax philosophic about things that you don't normally take the time to dissect and like if the topic is so important to you, if it's something that really gets your blood up, take a moment to understand why it does. Like it says, like dissect it, like break it down, understand the complexities of the topic. Saying, "Oh, I just hate that guy because I hate that guy and everybody else hates him, so I'm correcting that assumption." You know what I mean? No, like take a moment and dissect the intricacies of like for example, hating a human being is the most complex thing. It's one of the most complex beings you can feel an emotion about. Like, you know what I mean? I can hate a person, but why do I hate them? Do they reflect something in me? Did they say something that I find appalling or appealing for that matter? Like, break it down. Is it because of how he makes other people feel? How he makes this person feel? Would I allow my kids to shake their hand? Like, you got to break it down. There's so much more to it. Like, I can hate somebody and appreciate them at the same time. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of critical thinking and really thinking about what it is about that person that makes you feel these kind of ways. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I like that was definitely a philosopher's quote.
Right, right. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure that I put that into the podcast notes because I like that's one of the things that I like to come back to somewhere down the line, maybe in the conversation that we're having on one of our game nights or something. Because
Mhm.
dude, our game nights can go anywhere from stupid bottom of the barrel, easy type jokes to philosophy on what Marvel character could, is the most unbeatable person to, actual real
Yeah,
life stuff, man, that, challenges the way that everybody in the room thinks
yeah,
about something. But it is always respectful. It is never, anything that anybody's been pissed off about just because,
yeah,
well, this person said this and they're wrong. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Now, we've had some conversations go, man, that's stupid and this is but at the end of the day, man, we all come together, we have our laughs,
yeah,
jokes and things like that, man. And uh, 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 I'm always happier just having those conversations, man.
yeah. Me too.
Getting things like that. Now, there was one thing that you had said when talking about somebody. Like, I always get crapped on for saying that the 45th president that we had, to me, was a smart individual.
Hmm.
Um, and people would say, like, why do you think that way? And I'm like, look, you don't get to that position without having some type of either a smart team with you or a way to understand kind of how people think and work. And it is of my opinion that guy knew how to understand the way people think to get what
Yeah,
he wanted,
yeah.
and to me that's intelligent.
Hmm.
Take it for what it
That's
is. I'm like, the guy's an intelligent guy.
is definitely a type of intelligence for sure. Like, and that's the thing. Like, see, and the thing is that there's extremes. Nobody has this like middle ground opinion of this. It's either way on this side or way on that side. Like, and that's not necessarily true. First off, that's a generalization because there's lots of people who are in the middle of the road, but the really loud ones are like left and right. You know what I mean? Like super loud. There's the people who worship him, and the people who, if they could, would just like beat him in the street. But I think he was an incredibly intelligent person. One, I think if he had a and see, I wonder if he listened to his communications teams, the guys the people who coach him and tell him what he should be saying, like how to say things. I think if he had either they weren't a strong team or he just didn't listen to them. Like they could have been a really strong team and he just didn't listen, or they could have been a really weak team full of yes men and he was just like, this is what I'm going to say, and they're like, oh, it's perfect. You just don't know because you're not in the dynamic. You can't possibly know. But I think if somebody could have massaged some of the shit that he said, I think that he could have come off as sounding a lot more eloquent. And I think if he didn't sound the way he did on social media to a lot of people, I think he would have went down as in a much different light. And I think that's the trick.
Yes.
Like, that's the trick. I think that there are a lot of presidents who came before who were just really eloquent, and if you look at everything they did and everything that went on, they'd have gone down as way worse presidents if they talked differently. And I think that's the same for him. I think that he might have come off as a much better president, and not that he didn't do good things. He did some good things. I mean, he lit a fire into the VA in a way that nobody has in a long time. He did some good shit, but ultimately he came off the wrong way.
Hmm.
And I mean, the media never helps a president. It doesn't matter which stations you're listening to; they never help. They only make it worse. So I mean, it's
I'm smiling because as I was listening to what you were saying, I was also hoping that you said the words "I feel."
mhm,
You never said it once. You said "I think," and
mhm,
and to me, I think that when it comes to somebody that wants to apply critical thinking to a thought and give that thought out, you do more of, well, I think that
yeah,
versus I feel that,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people feel like he was a shitty president, and that's how you feel. That's not necessarily true. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things he did wrong. There are some things he did right. And I mean, that's the same for every president. And you know why? Because it's not the fucking presidents who are the problem. It's the rest of the fucking governing body. They're the ones who have been in office for 30 years. They're the ones who keep saying they're going to do something and don't do it. I mean, for example, I'm not for repealing healthcare, right? I whatever the system is, you know, it's at least a system, and we have something. But every like the Republicans, for example, when 45 was in office, they had control over almost everything. Like, that would have been the perfect time to repeal the healthcare and change it to the something that you think might be better, right? Where did that go? Like,
Hmm.
you talk about critical thinking. I remember you guys saying you were going to fix that. That's a big selling point you guys had. Fix this shit. Let's fucking get rid of Obamacare. I don't see something better on the table. You know what I mean? And that does that mean I'm not a Republican? No, I think, like, if I was, I would want to hold Republicans accountable. Like, they're my people, right? So I should want them to live up to their, first off, their statement and my expectations. My expectations are, you going to look out for me and take care of me because I'm in your party, and you better do that shit. Like, if I was on the other side, I'm like, you guys talk a big fucking game, you better step up and do that shit. Otherwise, I'm going to stay as a Democrat. You know what I mean? At the same time. So I don't know, man. There's so much shit. You want to talk critical thinking? People really need to dissect the topics and the issues that cause them to feel whatever way they feel about 45 or the rest of the politicians. Like, think about, like, even if you love people on your side, right? What are they doing to earn your love? Think about that shit. Like, do they even care about you? Do they even know you? You don't even exist in their planet. Like, they exist in a whole nother tax bracket, in a world that you can never even possibly understand. These are people who were born and bred to be politicians. And you know why? Because they got the money to crush any normal person who wanted to do good. They would crush you out of the picture because they have so much money in their political parties that new blood, unless they want it to happen, is not going to happen.
Bro, I had this thought one time that I shared with some people around me. I said,
Mhm.
I think I'd like to run for public office because I'd like
Thought
to,
about it too.
try and see some real change.
Yeah, thought about it
The
too.
the feedback that I got from these folks was it. I haven't forgot this to this day, and this
Mm,
was maybe about 5 years ago. They said, "King, we like you. Don't get us wrong.
mm.
We like you, but you're too honest to work in politics."
Yep, you have to lie.
And and that stuck with me for the longest time because it if it wasn't just them in the room that said that. Like, I took that to some of my other friends, like kind of different friend groups. I say, hey man, I'm thinking about running for office. They was like, what office? Some local, level or whatever, alderman, right? And they were like, you willing to get your hands dirty? I'm like, do you have to be that way to work in politics?
Sounds
That's
like it.
baffling to me
It's
that a
crazy, right?
majority of the people, like I said, these are different friend groups, raised different ways or whatnot,
And
but
they
a
all think the same thing.
majority think the same thing, bro.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's baffling to me, man.
I had the same conversation with my wife about, potentially running for some kind of local government, because I think local is where all the change really happens.
Hmm.
It's where the good stuff happens and where the bad stuff goes away. I think, I don't know for sure. But ultimately, with the way politics is portrayed in the media, for example, I worry that they would dig into my life too hard. And not that that's a bad thing, that they would take parts of my life and use it as a weapon against me because I'm different than them. because we've talked about I have bipolar disorder.
Hmm.
Does that mean I can't hold a political office? And lots of them would argue yes, because I'm mentally. They would paint it as I'm mentally unstable. You know what I mean? And my thing is how many times have you heard some crazy shit from a politician that says, is that person stable? Like these normal people out there saying this crazy shit. But that's the point. Like
Hmm.
politics is such an ugly arena. It's such a scary thing for normal people. It takes like I swear to you, like I feel like they would crush anything they didn't want. So if you were an honest person and you couldn't be swayed to be like them, they wouldn't permit you. Like sure, people are like, "Oh, you it gets voted." But they're going to run campaigns for the person they do want to win, and those campaigns are going to devastate you because people don't critically think. They say, "Oh, well, this guy who's been in office for 30 years is supporting this guy. I'm going to vote for that guy because this guy with 30 years." But why has this guy been in for 30 years doing the same shit? And has anything changed in that time? Like, why hasn't shit gotten better in 30 years? You know, they're not thinking about all of those things. And I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm saying that very clearly, if they're still in office after 30 years, there's a large population of people who have not really seen through that shit. So critical thinking isn't always a thing. Like maybe I was wrong in my previous statement that these large populations are not the case. Maybe they are. Look at the people who get voted into offices. It's scary. It's a weird thing, man. It's a lot to it. It's a lot to it.
So there, to me, there's a necessary correlation or like a connection
Hmm.
between critical thinking and learning.
Hmm.
All right. Do you see that it's happening in our current public education system? Because I can speak for myself and my kid. I grew up in public education. My daughter is in public education.
Hmm. Same.
Do you think that they're getting that at that level? I have an answer. My answer is yes.
Okay.
And I was a bit surprised by it. And I'm giving my answer based off of an essay that or not an essay, it was an English assignment that my eighth grader had to write
Okay.
that made me go, oh, wow. I, I can say very very accurately that I was not writing and thinking like that in eighth grade the way that she is now.
Okay.
Um, so that's my answer to that question. But what do you see out there?
I see. I don't know. And this is where we're different because you allow your daughter to have social media, right?
Yes.
So it could be that she's more informed. So she's already exposed to this larger amount of information because, and for good or ill, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it could be a very good thing. My children are not exposed to that amount of information. They don't have that social media. I don't feel like my kids are, not that they don't critically think, but I don't feel like they are even aware of the same things. They don't even exist in the same sphere of information. Like your daughter might know about, the presidencies and the different, nuances of what's being said and what's going on. Mine don't. Mine have no clue. The only things that they know is what they hear from people who talk around them because those people don't have the decency to not talk politics in front of children. You know what I mean? Like that's it. I mean, and I say that, but I mean, I've talked politics in front of my kids. So, I mean, I talk about random people who don't have a right to influence my children. I'm allowed to influence my children. They're supposed to think what I want them to think. No, no, I'm just kidding. But no, I've talked politics in front of them, not to them, but like I make sure the topic and the content isn't in a way that's going to scare them or put them in fear of anything. I talk about stuff in different terms.
Hmm.
But I think because they're not exposed to those things and the schools are not allowed to, um, not yet at least, not at their age, current age, they're just they critically think differently about different things. They're just not aware of the same stuff.
Man, I can't recall when I first got exposed to just the idea of critical thinking. I don't know
Hmm.
if that was elementary school. I don't know if it was middle school. I don't know if it was high school. But I
I can
know
tell
that,
you when you did.
oh,
Reading comprehension. When you read a book and you enjoy it, but you don't know why, it's when you read a book, you see a sentence or a paragraph, you're like, I wonder if that's what they were thinking. Or, oh, that's because this happened earlier in the book. That's when you started critically thinking.
hmm,
Reading comprehension is the start of critical thinking, in my opinion. It's that's the first time you can quantify it because you were thinking about the characters, the content, you were seeing what's happening. It's a little bit subjective, like it's creative, like it's abstract. Excuse me, it's more abstract because, like, for example, you're reading the book and you're seeing all the details, but you got to think about what those details look like based off of the description and the details from the story. But to know the nuances of the interactions between the characters, that's you're starting to critically think there. You know what I mean?
hmm. I had a funny conversation that I'd like to bring up real quick. I had a conversation with somebody who was asking me why do I like the game, and me and you talked about gaming in like episode 3, I think, of
Yeah,
our
something like that.
podcast. But one of the reasons why I like to game is that for me, it's a way to escape. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? There's it my current life and the people around me, things are good. You know what I'm saying? Things are going pretty well. You know, there's been the relative ups and downs and things like that. But when I'm gaming, I don't think about any of that. You know, I
No.
don't care about the illness that I was going through from earlier in the day. I don't think about, how I recently just lost a, good family member or a friend, fairly recently. It is just a way to escape, have my mind kind of brain, because it's not really turning off because you're
Mhm.
having to think
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
game for what it is that you're doing. But it's just a way to escape. I don't know why I brought that up, but I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
But I do the same thing. Escapism is why I watch movies. It's why I play video games. I just the real world sucks, man. I just want to get away from it for a few minutes.
We are coming up on, for one topic. We hit 48 minutes already, man. We are finding our groove, brother.
Yeah, we are.
Did you, so we are a little bit different in our week and when we did this episode and things like that. Did you happen to have a word of the episode for me for this week?
I got a word for you this week.
Ooh, okay. All
All
right.
right.
I'm ready.
Elucidate.
Uh Elucidate. Okay. So my hands up here, so I ain't searching anything. Elucidate. Elucidate is when you illustrate something and then you describe it. Out-
You're on the right track, man. You're on the right track. Yo,
Yo,
you're on the right track.
um, and
It
you
is
describe it in a way to make it seem real. I don't know.
it's not
Got
how
in
you
there.
describe it. It is the act of describing.
Ooh,
To make
okay.
something clear or explain.
How do you spell it? E-L-U.
Elucidate. Elucidate.
Elucidate.
Hmm.
All right, elucidate. I put that down in the comments. I'm going to have that in the description as well. And just like how I tried to make temerity fit into this episode, I'm going to try to make elucidate. I think, no. I'm not going to say I think. This is one of the ones where I'm going to say I feel. I feel as though when you have these words, you come up with these words that tie to a certain theme or
Yeah.
something. I don't know what it is yet. Don't tell me. One of these days it will be revealed. But I appreciate you doing this. You know, if you're new to this, Joe is a man with words, but he uses these words not to make himself sound smart or anything like that. I asked him to do this because I'm a man that's very simple in the way that I talk. I'm from Alabama, Roll Tide. But I am trying to learn uh, just as I'm living life. Like I also want to be learning as well. At 36, about to be 37, I've just started to really read more books. Doing these podcasts and having these conversations is how I kind of pull in other information from other people, and words like elucidate, unless you know heard it on a TV show or something, it's probably a word that I wouldn't have really been exposed to just kind of on my own. So that's the goal of why we do a word of the day, and Joe is like a puppet master with these words. So elucidate. All right. Well, hey, man, we've gotten through episode 9.
We did.
As of this recording, we are on a holiday here in the U.S. It is a, a Memorial Day,
Hmm.
and it is that is it like a national like law or something that was passed like that we celebrated here in the U.S. Do you know if other countries have something like a
I
Memorial
th-
Day for their countries?
I think that like nations with larger militaries like ours, like I think England does. Um, I think other nations like that do, like our close allies and stuff. And I think it's because they've participated with us in other conflicts and stuff like that. But it's definitely federal holiday here, so it's definitely like countrywide here.
Yep, yep. And there's gonna be people that don't believe in why we do it. I am a person that thinks that it is honorable to have a remembrance of
Hmm.
someone who bore the uniform and was not able to come home while serving their country.
Yep.
And that is going to be on the forefront of my thoughts tomorrow.
Hmm.
As I get through the day, I don't know about you, but I have lost good friends of mine who
Hmm.
served, and
Same.
I miss them. Like I miss them
Yeah.
often. I think about them often. I have a kangaroo nutsack right off here to my right of a good friend of mine who just thought it was funny to give me that as a gift. And that was over 10 years ago. And everywhere I go, that kangaroo nutsack comes with me. Um,
Yeah, I'll be spending my birthday at Arlington National Cemetery, which is 2 days from now on June 1st. I'm not going on Memorial Day, unfortunately. I just it's too much. There's too many people. But like the next day, gonna look at the wreaths, take some family members through the cemetery so that they can experience that too and stuff.
awesome, man. Awesome. That's cool. I'll be going down Saturday. I want to say
Hmm.
either this upcoming Friday or Saturday. There's a couple of plots that I'm going to go down. Just kind of standing, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of pay a nod to. And then, um, yeah, that's how I'm going to do that. So we are going to end this episode here. I am glad you were able to come on. I know you got family in town and things like that, man. It sounds like that was a surprise.
It was actually, yeah. They just came out of nowhere, man. It's cool. It was
Um,
awesome.
Good deal. Are we still up for tomorrow? Because I don't know if you having your family over changes what you had initially invited me. Or see, because you're
Yeah.
kind of looking at the face like,
No,
hey,
no, I remember, and we
okay.
talked about it. I'll get with you
um,
offline.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that's cool and that's fine because I have some other
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
stuff. You know what I'm saying? But you were the first, and I like to
yeah.
take the first. And just kind of go from there. Even if you want the first, Joe, you are the most important. Yeah. he knows that that's bullshit, but see, that's why
Yeah.
me and him are boys. Well, hey, for the people that are tuning in and watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. You can also catch us, like I said, if you just look up the Just Joe King podcast on all major podcasting platforms, you can find us there. I'll put the link to the stuff in the description after this episode, and tune in 2 weeks from now when we come back with another episode of Just Joe King podcast.